So today we have here with us Katie McPhee. She's the Europe Regional Marketing Manager from Eventbrite. Eventbrite is one of the leading event registration softwares out there. And we're going to speak now about how to grow the audience for your event. So first of all, let me welcome Katie. Katie, how are you? Are you here with us?
Really good, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really good.
Great. Well, thanks so much for taking the time to share with us today your expertise. Well, myself, I am Rosa Garriga-Mora. I am the Marketing and Communications Manager of myQaa, and I'm based in Paris. And Katie, I believe you are in London right now?
Yes, I am.
So, Katie, could you please tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. And thanks very much for inviting us to take part today. So as you mentioned, I'm the Regional Marketing Manager for Eventbrite in Europe. And that means that I do all sorts of activations to kind of grow our organizer base and help our organizers promote their events.
Mm-hmm. Great. And what exactly does Eventbrite do?
Yeah, so moving on to the next slide, Eventbrite was actually created in 2006 in San Francisco in Silicon Valley, and the goal was to create a ticketing website that would allow organizers of all sorts of events to have an online ticket selling solution, because previously the only sort of ticket selling that was available was to stadiums and big gigs. So they really wanted to provide something for people organizing networking or craft events or talks, that solution, whether free or paid, they could create tickets online and promote their events. And so as Eventbrite has grown, we're obviously now ticketing those sort of larger events, some really big conferences, lots of TEDx events. We've actually ticketed over 1 million events now in 187 countries across all different categories now. So for everything to registration, conferences, music, festivals, and really everything in between.
Oh, that's very impressive, and actually that's why we at myQaa we are partnered. We have partnered with you guys, with Eventbrite, because we know you are one of the leaders in the industry. So so let's get started with the questions. We're gonna speak now with Katie. I've got some questions planned, and this is gonna take around 20-25 minutes. And then at the end, we're gonna collect questions from the audience. So you may see there is a questions box in the GoToWebinar software. So you can type in your questions anytime, and then at the end of the session, I'll ask them to Katie. Okay? So let's start it. So Katie, what are the main trends that you see in terms of timing, for example? Like, when should you start selling tickets, to maximize the number of tickets that we sell? And are there specific times when you see peaks of registration?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a frustration for event organizers everywhere that you really always see that last minute ticket rush in the last week or two before the actual event takes place. And I think that's just a reality of how we as humans kind of buy our tickets and plan our times. And so what I always think is that, I mean, yes, you can just go ahead and put your tickets on sale 6 weeks before the event, knowing that it's really the last 2 weeks where you'll sell the bulk of your tickets. But looking at the grid, those organizers that actually put their tickets on sale, say 12 weeks before the event, there is that incremental kind of rise and those incremental sales that happen between the 12 to 6 week mark that will end up selling more tickets ultimately than if you do just have like a month or 6 weeks to sell those tickets.
That's great information to know. And what do you think works best in terms of marketing? Is there one tactic that stands out?
I mean, it sounds basic, but I think a lot of B2B organizers don't always look to their own network when hosting an event. Every brand, every company, even if you're an individual organizing events, you've got your network, you've got your advocates, be them on your mailing list or on LinkedIn, on your other social networks. I think they're always going to be the ones that are the most interested in your event. So I think, like, considering how you can incentivize and evangelize your community and make them feel like valued members, be it special offers for people that you're connected with on a certain network, or just like, I think just, really tailoring that communication accordingly, I think is going to help build that solid customer base, so that you can retain organisers for the next event as well. And then talking about specific networks, at Eventbrite, we since 2010, we've actually been trying to measure for organisers what the cold hard cash is that's driven back to the event organiser when events are shared on social media. And so the figures that you're seeing on this slide here represent some data from Eventbrite's own site. So when organisers shared a conference, we saw that on Twitter it drove an average of £6.13 back in ticket sales for each organiser. And this is what we call social commerce. So
that's really
useful. It really shows that, having a social strategy and kind of working the networks where your users can be found is still a very effective way.
Yeah. I mean, it's so useful to have this data for all event marketers out there. So it's really great. And is there, does this apply to some specific kinds of events, or do you think it's quite, I guess this is an average, right, of all the events that you have at Eventbrite?
Exactly. This was specifically for events in registration. So this was, we have in registration, we class conferences, talks, networking. So that was for this category of events. And I think what it's just helpful to do is to prove the ROI of having a social strategy. I mean, I know this is quite an old conversation by this point, but I still think that it's important for marketers to prove what their social is driving back to the business in terms of ticket sales.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, actually, one of the questions we got from the audience already was about how to measure the ROI of social media. So I'm sure she will appreciate your information. That's great. Okay, so do you have more specific advice on B2B events?
I think that, what we've worked really hard to do at Eventbrite is just provide as much data as we can for event organisers. We know that data and understanding what's driving ticket sales is really going to be the key to be able to kind of unlock your promotional activity, figure out how people are finding your event, and then spending that time activating that audience. So, if you can see in real time that people are discovering your events through through a link that you might have put up on a partner site, for example, then you're going to work harder to track the effectiveness of the partners that you're working with. On the previous slide as well, and that's the pie chart that all organisers see. And we're seeing increasing numbers of people are actually finding events through the Eventbrite directory. So I do think it's important to consider which ticketing agent you're selling with. Do they have their own volume of traffic, like people that are going to be finding that event organically? And if so, it's worth tracking that activity and recognizing that. And I think that just being more aware of what's driving sales is really what B2B organisers can do best to make sure they're spending their time the most effectively.
Yeah.
And talking about partners, so the next slide again. So the tracking links is a tool that, I personally organise dozens of events for Eventbrite, and one that I had last week, I had about 20 different tracking links. So I gave a unique link, which went back to the event page, to each blog, partner, even the venue, I gave them a unique link so I could see how many page views and ticket sales each channel was driving. And by doing that, again, it's just really making sure that I'm using my time the best I can, and just working hard with those partners, and then for the next event, I'll know that they're the people that can really help drive those sales.
Yeah, and it sounds like you can do this so easily with Eventbrite, to create that track and to that link, and to track just how many tickets are being sold.
Exactly, and for people that haven't used Eventbrite before, all these tools are free if you're organising a free event. If it's paid, we charge an incremental fee on tickets, but all these tools are free, forever, if you're always organising free events.
That's awesome. What other you've spoken already about the Eventbrite directory, how to track lots of data. Are there other features that make Eventbrite, really special?
I think like I mentioned about it being free for free events. I think that in itself is we are one of the only ticketing agents on the market that offer that service. But I would also say that the innovation that we've brought to ticketing really has helped us stay ahead of the game. Looking onto the next slide, the mobile apps that we created, we were one of the first to have a mobile app that turns your phone into a ticket scanner. So really democratizing that technology that's previously been only available to really like large scale event organizers. Anyone can now stand on the door with a ticket scanner, which is effectively an app that they can just download for free onto their phone. And again, that is available for free events, and it's just like a free app. And we also have mobile apps for attendees. So when we mobile optimized all our event pages, we actually saw a 60% increase in conversion to ticket sales. And again, we have been one of the first ticketing companies to do that. So event organizers can be assured that when their attendees are trying to buy a ticket on their mobile phone, they're going to have a great experience, and they're going to just be able to complete that transaction seamlessly without the sort of multiple pages that we've all tried and sort of drop the process trying to buy tickets for things. Well, it is sort of a one-click process here.
Indeed, yeah, that's good. Is there anything else about Eventbrite that you would like to tell us about?
I guess one of the key differentiators is the different services we offer connected through our partners. So you mentioned before, you guys, myQaa, are one of our partners. Well, we want people that are organizing events to have like every service, but we recognize at Eventbrite that we're never going to be the experts in making surveys or sending out volume email like MailChimp or SurveyMonkey. So we have in-depth integrations with partners such as those, so that organizers can really benefit of a whole range of other tools that other people do, but with a very seamless process, so that their Eventbrite account syncs with these tools and they can really make that effective.
So yeah, you're just making our lives easier, because event planners are already so busy with just event, and now to think about all these technologies, it's so overwhelming. So
exactly, and I think it's important to have a seamless solution so that everything's integrated together and that you're not sort of having to juggle between numerous different apps and programs.
Indeed. And Katie, I know that you are very involved in the meetings and events industry. You are also a member of the advisory board of Social Media Week. So with all that knowledge, where do you see event technology heading?
I think that ever since I've been with Eventbrite, which is since 2011 actually, I've just heard people saying and wishing that there was more solutions for engaging with other attendees at events. I know that multiple solutions are trying to tackle this, and I think also being able to make the event more engaging, so being able to interact with the organizer. I think that there's some really great solutions out there, including yourselves right now, allowing the curator to kind of ask questions and for the audience to be able to interact, answer polls, and just to make the event a more engaging experience. But I think on that personal level about how you meet people at an event and how you connect at events, I'm still waiting for that, that one solution that people are going to acknowledge as like the unifying solution, because like I said, I know that a lot of people have tried, but I don't think it's been cracked yet.
Right, like a solution to facilitate networking and meeting those people that you want to connect with.
Exactly, yeah. And then the other thing that I would talk about is, obviously we're hearing a lot about drones, but I think looking at the last slide, I think that event organizers are going to be utilizing this technology increasingly. At sort of outdoor events like this, that's sort of an obvious one, but I think even in awards dinners and indoor events, we're going to see drones being used to capture like a really unique angles and in photography, and that being really compelling content to help with the promotion for the next event.
That sounds very, yeah. I'm sure we're gonna see many drones flying on top of our events. That's great. Great. Then yeah, I don't have any more questions from my side. So now we're just gonna take, well, first again, thank you, Katie, for spending some time with us this morning. And I'm just gonna now start taking questions from the audience. So yeah, you can start asking them on the questions box, and I will read them out loud for you. And we've already got a couple of questions from Tanya. She says, "What's the best way to use social media for targeting niche markets, and how to measure the ROI of social media?"
So I think that using social media to target niche markets, I mean, social media now, we're using it to describe so many things. Sometimes email comes under social media, often blogs do. I mean, I would probably start with blogs, and depending on which country you're in, like I know Twitter is, it's pretty big in the UK, not so big in Germany, for example. But I think on Twitter and across blogs, like it's a lot easier to find people that are very involved and passionate about the same niche that you're trying to draw in. So I'd definitely start with those platforms, and once I think that Twitter's like a very accessible platform, just being able to reach out to people. I think that's probably like a pretty obvious way.
I also think, hashtags, right? Like to find the hashtags that your niche is using. It's a very good way to find people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not sure what else to offer. It depends what you're already doing, because I would imagine that if you're already sort of working within that niche, you may or may not already have that network. But I think using those platforms to find the influencers and reaching out, that would definitely be the starting point that I would make. And I think for showing the ROI, obviously if it's an event organizer and you're needing to show where ticket sales are coming from, as I mentioned before, you can track that on systems like Eventbrite. But I also think that there's so many tools out there now, Social Bro being one, that I always use for measuring my social media outreach.
Right.
I think that's pretty impactful.
Could you repeat the name of that of this tool? I don't think I'm familiar with it.
So Social Bro.
Social Bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Sprout Social is another one as well that we use here at Eventbrite, which shows the impressions and the reach that all your Twitter and Facebook activities having.
That's great. Yeah, I think there are so many tools now to measure the ROI of social media, but the key is how to make sense of the data as well, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, we've got a few more questions. One, I think is quite similar to what you just said. It's from Stephanie Mackenzie, and it's, what do you think is the most important social channel for events? Now, I'm not sure if it's most important in terms of driving registrations or just in terms of like driving buzz or creating interaction during an event. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it really depends. It's very unique, like to the event and even to the country where you are. For events that I organise here in London, Twitter is really impactful. We actually had a lot of engagement on Instagram for the one I hosted last week, but I think that it really shifts from country to country. And for the type of event, I know that in registration, LinkedIn is a powerful driver for a lot of our conference organisers here. But I believe there's the equivalent Zing in Germany, for example. So I think that there's definitely not one answer to that question. Facebook is always going to be powerful. I think I'd like to know a bit more about what the event she's organising is and sort of who that target audience is before giving a definitive answer, because I do think that it's just variable.
It depends. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. And also, as you say, now there is Instagram and there are so many social media channels popping up all the time that it's you have to be always on top of what's going on, right?
And it varies by country as well. So my colleagues that are in the States, Instagram is literally the number one for them now whenever they're doing any kind of activity. Whereas, I think in London, we're only just starting to see that traction. And yeah, depending on where else you are in Europe, there are many different ones. But I think as an event organizer, it's important to identify the one or two that are really going to drive impact for you and your event and focusing on them. I don't think that trying to do a sort of a six or really like multi-channel strategy. I think you can maybe focus on three, but I think that any more than that, it's going to be very difficult.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got a question from Jess. So she says, is it possible to add presentations to Eventbrite, like for example PowerPoint, or is it better to link to something like SlideShare?
Yeah, SlideShare is what I always use to upload my presentations after an event. I mean, Eventbrite, you've literally got the ticket page and you can customize that box. You can add links to videos, you can add photography, but think of Eventbrite as, the single web page for your event, and then the assets that you might produce afterwards or link to from the page would be in the form of kind of a link, or, what I usually do is email attendees if it's for materials like presentation after the event. You can do that through Eventbrite, but then I would generally link to SlideShare.
That's very interesting. And also I've used SlideShare a lot, and I found many people find your stuff on there, like, just organic traffic. So you may reach even more people by putting your slides on a SlideShare, I would say, than just your event audience.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, and we've got another question, again, around the topics of social media and ROI from Stephanie. Please, could you tell us a little bit more about the best way for measuring social media ROI in terms of interactions?
I mean, the tool that I use is Sprout Social, and that is, that shows just how many people have clicked on your tweet, on your Facebook posts, and how many messages you've received and how many messages you've sent as well. So, if you've had like 200 retweets in a week, you can look down the list of messages on Sprout Social that you've sent and actually see next to it just how many people that reached, how many retweets each message achieved. And then you can pull reports over time. So say you're organizing an event and you've got sort of 3-month promotional period, you can pull that report and have it organized in all types of way on Sprout Social and really kind of see where those peaks were, who the key influencers were that have been talking about your event. For analyzing hashtags, there's a tool that I use called TweetReach, and that talks about, or that will track, how the hashtag has performed over time, and again, what that reach was, who were the key influencers, and who helped you spread that message.
Right. So you've spoken about Sprout Social and TweetReach, right? Are those free tools, or is it how does it work?
So TweetReach there's a basic version, but if you actually want a report to download, I think it's about $20, but you can just pay for that per report, so you don't need to subscribe. For Sprout Social, there is a subscription. We've actually got a company subscription with Eventbrite, so I'm not entirely sure how much it is. I think they do have a free version, but I'd need to check that. But I think by and large, like Sprout Social is a paid tool.
Right. Okay, that's, usually when you want to really like thorough data, you need to pay, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now we are close to the end of this webinar. So if you guys have any more questions for Katie, please ask them now. Or otherwise, if we don't have time to ask them today, we will do so by email. And also, just so you know, this is being recorded. So in a few days, I'll send you a link to YouTube, so you will be able to watch the recording again or to share it with your colleagues. And the slides are going to be on a SlideShare too. So there you go. So are there any more questions that you have? Yeah, we have one from Emily. What is the best way to use the Eventbrite tools to market a private event that is not available to the public?
So we have different options for privacy. So if you're organizing an event that's super, super selective, you might want to make it invite only so that anyone clicking on that URL would just see a page which said, it's just got a box that says invite only, so you can't see any of the event details. Alternatively, you can have it as a page where all the details are visible, but it's just not registered on any of the Eventbrite kind of systems or the homepage or the directory or anything like that. And that's typically what I'll use for my events, because it still makes it easy to share the URL. You can still use tracking links, but no one's going to discover your event unless they've actually got the URL. And then yes, and then you can also use a password protected as well, which, again, people will need the password, but anyone with a password can use it. So it really depends on kind of the level of privacy you want for the event. I think typically to benefit from stuff like tracking links, as I mentioned, I would just go for the one that isn't registered up on the directory. So it's still just a regular event, but just not made public.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I also would be interested in learning more about the Eventbrite directory. Like, how does it work? How do you list events? Do the event organizers have to request to be on the directory, or is it automatic that they?
Yeah. So if you created an event today, as you're going through the process, first of all, you click create an event, and you edit all the event details, and then it'll give you the option. Excuse me. It will give you the option to publish it to the directory and make it public, or you can check the box to make it private. So it's just part of the create process, and you can make a decision there. And then if you click publish, it will just automatically be published up to the Eventbrite directory, and you can select the categories that your event appears in as well, so that people searching for your specific type of event will be able to find that.
Right. So people just search for, like, let's say, interests or keywords or maybe location.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I see now many. I think that's a booming market. Let's say the event discovery. Kind of.
Exactly, and that's actually the area that Eventbrite's increasingly growing into. Here in the UK, where we've had an office here for several years now, so we have got hundreds of thousands of events happening each year. And the event discovery side, we are seeing more and more people using Eventbrite to discover events. In countries like France and Germany, we are we are still in that growth phase. We are still kind of working specifically with organisers, but the tools are there with Eventbrite to search and look for events that are happening close by, and to find great things to do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us so much information. I've learned a lot today, and I hope everyone else has as well. And so I'm gonna close now the webinar for today. But if you have any follow-up questions, you can send me an email to rosa.garriga@myQaa.com. You can see here also, I guess that's your Twitter handle. Right, Katie?
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, and I'll be sending you a link with a recording to this webinar. So thanks, and have a good day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.
Great, thanks very much for having me.
Oh, thanks, Katie. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.